Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils won again, and Kody Clemens played walk-off hero. And some people are saying he deserves a bigger role on this team. Is that true? We'll discuss on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. 5 years over at 97.5, The Fanatic on the radio here in Philadelphia. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 3 seasons now, and this is my 3rd season as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. If you enjoy the content, that's the number one way to say thank you. So I appreciate everyone who's done that already and going to do that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started and check out that awesome offer from our fans, our friends. We're fans of them over at FanDuel. We're also fans of the Philadelphia Phillies and of Kody Clemens. A walk-off win last night for the Phils over the Tampa Bay Rays. A 2-1 final in a game that was quick and kind of a little bit boring. And the Phillies, well, they had 5 hits in the whole contest. And they won. And you remember I gave you that stat, how the Rays are like unbelievable when they out-hit opponents? Guess what? The Phillies just went ahead and said, forget all that. We're going to hit 5 times. You're going to have 8 hits, and we're going to win this game 2-1, which is credit. Let's run through some stuff real quick before we get to the walk-off, right? And then we'll have that Kody Clemens discussion. But credit to Christopher Sanchez. Outstanding start by him. And the bullpen was really good too. But let's start with Sanchez. 6 innings. He only had 4 strikeouts, but he only allowed 4 hits, and he allowed 0 runs. Great work by him. Ryan Kerkering a shutdown inning. Jeff Hoffman a shutdown inning. Carlos Estevez went ahead and gave up that home run that Johan Rojas almost robbed. That was like one of the near-miss home run robs, like the closest I've ever seen. Would have been an insane play. Unfortunately, Rojas didn't make it. That sucks. At the time, it was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. And then you're not even mad at anybody, right? I guess Estevez for giving up a ball that could be hit out of the yard, but it was just like, how in the world did that not stay in his glove? Rojas trying to make the play. Didn't quite get there. Great effort by him. Nothing to be mad about. Just kind of like oh, come on, man. Really? In the 9th inning? But Estevez ends up with the victory. He is 4-4 on the season. And he gets that victory because the Phillies were able to walk it off in the 9th. Now, the reason they were in position to walk it off in the 9th is from the only other run in the game besides Kody Clemens, which was an absolute moonshot by Kyle Schwarber, who's one of the hottest hitters in Major League Baseball right now. He was only 1 for 4, but that one was like a 470-foot bomb into the upper level of the bullpen that bounced up on the Ashburn Alley. Like, to hit the ball there, that is insane. I've stood out there many times yelling at the opposing bullpen to know that a ball can carry that far and then bounce up. Like, it's nuts. It's superhuman power. Kyle Schwarber has it. He's been displaying it all month in September, even though we're only on the 10th day of September, and he was displaying it at the end of July too. Wait, July? Did I just skip like August? Don't even know my months. Sorry about that, folks. Bottom line, Kyle Schwarber can hit a baseball really, really far, and that set up the situation in the 9th inning where the Phillies, well, they were going to need the win on a walk-off, and there's a quick out recorded, but the bases get loaded. And actually, before we even get to Kody Clemens, too, shout out Buddy Kennedy. Buddy Kennedy, local kid, Millville, New Jersey. He gets a chance to play with the Phillies because of the injuries with Edmundo Sosa and JT Realmuto and Alec Boehm and all these guys and Austin Hayes that are currently not available for the team. He gets a big at bat in the 9th inning. What would you do if you were in that spot? Because I'll tell you what I would do if I was in that spot. I am stepping up to the plate, and the second that I see a ball remotely close to the strike zone, I am swinging like I'm trying to hit that ball on the Oregon Ave, and that this ball game is over, and it's going to be me, and everyone's going to be mobbing me at home plate. It is my moment. This is storybook stuff. I've dreamed about this for my entire life. And what does he do? He takes a disciplined walk, and he gets Kody Clemens to the plate. Ultimate team at bat. Great work by Buddy Kennedy. I'm not like overly excited about a walk, But the situation, how hard mentally it is for some young players to come up and get those opportunities and put together a good team at bat and not swing out of their shoes and not try and do too much. Hey, those are the type of at bats that win you ball games. And that was one that set up Kody Clemens for the walk-off winner. We're going to talk about, in our next segment, the Bryce Harper thing, with the should have been double off the wall that he thought was going. We'll get into it. I have plenty of thoughts on that. That deserves its own segment because people are losing their minds. And again, we'll discuss. But this first segment, we're just going to talk a little Kody Clemens because let's start with the good, right? And then we'll question the questionable. Kody Clemens has been up and down all year, really the past 2 seasons. He's been in a situation where he's had moments, but he hasn't really gotten an extended stay here at the major league level. He has opportunities, but because the team is so talented, he doesn't get many. He gets an opportunity to walk it off last night. A great job of hitting through the first base, second base gap. Nice little single. All you need to do. Ball game is over. And Kody Clemens, I got to tell you guys, I think everybody on social media, from my feed at least, had the same reaction. This dude can swing it. This dude at the major league level can hit baseballs. He's batting this year, .242 at the major league level with 4 home runs, 17 RBIs, and a .757 on base plus slugging. OPS. I should have just said the letters. I listed the whole thing for some reason. Now, he only has, in the regular season, 91 at-bats. So, in 91 at-bats to have 17 RBIs and 4 homers, that's not bad for a guy that hasn't been able to really break through at the major league level yet. He plays a couple of positions, and you like him at first base, but he can be a little bit versatile. Bats left, right, throws right, so you can play him other places in the infield. But really, he's a first baseman type of guy or a corner infield type of guy. And the tough thing about Kody Clemens, right, as great as the walk-off was, as great as he's had some moments, I love what Kody Clemens has done for the Philadelphia Phillies. Remember, when you traded Matt Vierling to the Detroit Tigers for Gregory Soto, Matt Vierling and Nick Maton, you got back Kody Clemens as kind of like this throw-in guy, and Soto was the key part of that deal. If you had told me that a year and a half later, Kody Clemens was going to be hitting a walk-off for this team, and Gregory Soto was going to be in Baltimore following a complete collapse of his ability to throw for the Philadelphia Phillies, I would have called you insane. And yet here we are. But here's the tricky thing when it comes to Kody Clemens and not getting caught up too much in the moment. I like Kody Clemens. I like Weston Wilson. I like a lot of these guys, the fringe players or fringe pitchers from the minor league system. It's a good sign the guys are coming up and producing because it means you're developing talent well. But here's what I'll say. For those that want Kody Clemens to get more bats, to get more opportunity, who is it over? And I understand September call-ups. Now he can be on the team. You get an extra 2 guys to go ahead and fill out the roster now that we're into September. But let's just look at the guys that would normally employ the roster or normally be employed on the roster if they were healthy. You're not playing him at first base over Bryce Harper, arguably one of the great players of this era. Never going to happen. You're not playing him over Alec Boehm at third base. Alec Boehm was the all-star starter at third base this year for the National League. He's not really a middle infielder. You're not going to play him up the middle. Even if you were, you're not playing him over Trey Turner. And even though Bryce Stott has struggled, you'd have to see significant consistency from Kody Clemens to even consider playing him over Bryce Stott. Trey Turner, by the way, another all-star starter in the infield. Then when you go to bench roles and say, okay, he can be a pinch hitter off the bench, but is he better than Edmundo Sosa? I'm taking Edmundo Sosa over Kody Clemens. Is he better than Brandon Marsh or Yohan Rojas, whoever's not playing, because Austin Hayes ideally is in the outfield when he's healthy and not have a kidney infection? Are you playing Kody Clemens over those guys? In the moment, you might say yes, but in actuality, their track records would show that they're solid Major League Baseball players. So the tough thing for Kody Clemens, right? And I don't want him traded, and I don't want him off this team. But if I was Kody Clemens, or if I was Kody Clemens' agent, I would want him out of Philadelphia because I think this dude is a major league ball player. I don't know how good of a major league ball player, but I think he could be a usable depth piece or maybe even a fringe starter on a team like Colorado, a team like Chicago, not the Cubs, the White Sox, some of those teams that are trying to find pieces, right? He could be that guy. Unfortunately for Kody Clemens, he was traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, who are stacked at basically every position. So when you get opportunities, it's because of injury. They're few and far between. You can play well, but there's still a lot of money committed at these positions to certain players that are not Kody Clemens. So as far as giving him a bigger role on the team, Now, if you were to superimpose this year's team over last year's team, and you have your final at bat of the year against the Diamondbacks in the NLCS, and Kody Clemens is at the plate instead of Jake Cave, do I feel better? Absolutely. So that just shows you where the depth is at on this team this year compared to where it was last year. And that's a great sign. The tough thing for Kody is there isn't that much opportunity for him to get more chances here in Philly right now. Maybe that changes in the future. Maybe he doesn't hang around and wait for it to change in the future and sees his chances somewhere else. But in this postseason run, if Kody Clemens gets in a bat or two, I'm not going to be mad at it. The guy seems to come up big more often than not. He can field his position a little bit, and he has a little bit of pop. No moment's too big. And I guess part of that is being the Rockets' son and knowing that Roger Clemens has shown you what big-time situations look like and how you can go through those. So credit to Kody Clemens, a walk-off hit for him. Great work, great win for the Philadelphia Phillies, even though it didn't look so pretty. There was really only one tough part of it, besides the offense not being productive. But when you're missing the guys you are, it happens. There's only one real negative takeaway from last night. And I say negative lightly from my perspective, because Bryce Harper did not run out a ball that he had hit off the wall in the ninth inning. He thought he had gotten one. I don't see it as negative for the same reason that I think everybody else does. But my issues might be a little bit more troubling. We'll discuss it coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about game time first, though, because you need tickets to games. You need to be there to see the Kody Clemens walk-off game, the Christopher Sanchez great game. I mean, Ranger throws tonight. It's never too late to get tickets for the game at the bank between the Phils and the Rays. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Speaking of thousands of tickets, the Birds play a home game Friday night, their home opener against Atlanta. Maybe you want tickets to that. Game Time does football too. They have comedy, concerts, theater, sports of all kinds. Go ahead and check it out with the Game Time app. And they've got so much good stuff. I mean, you can see the view from your seat before you purchase the ticket. It shows you the all-in fees up front, so you're not surprised by them at the end. They have the Game Time guarantee, which credits you 110% of the difference if you find seats in the same row and section for less. And you got the best ticket coverage policy in the business. Go ahead and check out Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. You get $20 off your first purchase. That's right. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB. You get $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? You already know, folks. It's game time. All right, let's discuss this Bryce Harper situation because to me, it's a non-issue. And I'll tell you why. But if you're not familiar with the situation, let me just quickly outline what happened. So Bryce Harper comes up in the ninth inning, and he hits an absolute missile. He stands there. He watches it. It looked good. It felt good. I'm yelling, get out at the TV. He's probably yelling, get out in his mind. And as he's like a step and a half out of the box 3 or 4 seconds later, the ball ricochets off the top of the wall in right field at Citizens Bank Park. And he starts to bust it to first. And people look and say, well, he should have been on second. He got caught watching in a big spot in the ninth inning when you just gave up a lead. And now you have to score to win. And we're in September and everyone needs to focus. And to all those people, you know what I say? I say you're right. At the end of the day, Bryce Harper cannot get caught standing around watching the baseball fly. Run everything out. It's one of the first things they teach you in baseball. It's good fundamentals. Now, it's not hustle to me, right? Because he's not choosing, like making a conscious choice to say, I don't feel like running right now. That's not it. He thought he got one. And that happens around baseball all the time. And it shouldn't, because you should always run everything out. But that's more of a attention to detail thing than it is a hustle thing. Bryce Harper hustles. He plays the game incredibly hard. I never question it about him, even on times where it seems like he doesn't give the full effort running down the line to first or whatever. He has enough stock in the bank to tell me that Bryce Harper is a player that hustles, that wants to win. I firmly believe that about him. I'll never question that about him. Now, It is a mental mistake, and that can't happen. Rob Thompson was caught on the TV broadcast in the dugout, putting his head kind of down, shaking his head a little bit. He said after the game that Bryce Harper came up to him, immediately apologized, took accountability for it, and Topper was basically like, yeah, he knows he can't do it. He apologized. That's really like all you can do, right? That's all you can ask for is just they say they know better, they go out and do it again. Hopefully it isn't something that ever has to repeat itself, but guys get caught watching sometimes. That's the nature of power hitters. And like I brought this up earlier this morning on the radio. Did anyone notice how long Kyle Schwarber stood and stared at his home run? No, because it went out, right? But he stood there for a while, 2-3 seconds, where he like slowly admired the swing he put on the baseball. And then he took his time and jogged around because his ball went way, way out of the yard. Bryce Harper's did not, but they both had the feeling that they got one, and Bryce Harper has done it like 330 sometimes in his career. I would expect him to know when he gets one. So I don't know. I'm not taking Bryce Harper to task, especially since they won the baseball game. I'm not going to kill him for it. I've already told you. Like, should he have run it? Yeah. Does he know that? Yes. Does Rob Thompson know that? Yes. Did they talk about it? Yes. Did Rob Thompson address it to the fan base and media? Absolutely. So that's case closed, right? It's not that big of a deal. Let's not lose our minds over something trivial like that in a game that they won. I know it might not seem trivial at the time. Hindsight, we have the benefit of it. It was trivial. They won anyway. Move on. Here's what the real problem is with that Bryce Harper situation. It's not the fact that he didn't run out of the box. It's not the fact that he got caught watching or showboating or pimped it or wasn't hustling, whatever you want to call it. If it's anything to do with the fact that he didn't run to first base and like it looked like he wasn't giving his full effort, that's going to pale in comparison to what I'm going to say. If you are a power hitter, if you are a true Major League Baseball player that's hit over 300 home runs in your career, and if you're Bryce Harper, by the way, who's hit probably thousands in his life, you know when you get one. You do. You know the feeling. You know, hey, I've got it. That's going out. Like, I just nuked that. Kyle Schwarber had the feeling earlier in the game. I feel amazing about that swing I just put on the ball. There is no doubt in my mind that's leaving the yard. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch it for a step or two because I just got this pitcher and I want him to know it. That's the thought process that goes through these guys' heads. And you want to be entertaining and you want to enjoy what you did. It's tough to hit a ball out of the ballpark in a major league game. Like, that's the understatement of the century. So when you get one, enjoy it. It's like telling guys in the NFL, like, hey, feel free, celebrate your touchdowns. You got to work so hard to get those. Do whatever dance you want. Like, that's how I feel about all of this stuff. But the problem is Bryce Harper should know, hey, this is what it feels like when I get one. And clearly, last night in the 9th inning, he felt that feeling. And that ball did not leave the yard. And that is much more troubling to me because what that says is, that power really is not there. We haven't seen him hit a home run since early August. It is now September 10th. We do not have a lot of time for Bryce Harper to get that power cranking again before the postseason rolls around. Now, we've seen this before where he goes kind of cold in September, a little power outage, and then in October, he just turns it on because he is this clutch monster that will always be in big spots for this team and delivers more often than not. So it's not like a complete alarms going off in my head, but that was one of my first thoughts was the fact that he thought he hit that out and it didn't get out tells me his power is not where he wants it to be. It's not that he's just missing the ball. No, it's not that he's just getting under it or too much on top of it or not making hard enough contact or there's a hole in his swing. No, he hit that ball exactly where he wanted to, on the line he wanted to. Probably could have had a little bit more of an angle, launch angle, but he did not think there was any way it stayed in the yard, which is why he watched it the way that he did and it stayed in. He's dealing with elbow issues. He's dealing with wrist issues. He's been banged up. He says resting a couple days is not going to make it feel better. He hasn't had a lot of power displayed by the Philadelphia Phillies first baseman. Like, it just hasn't happened for him over the past month and change. And it's troubling that he thought he got that one and it didn't go out. Because that to me is just like a clear indicator of he's not creating enough pop. And if it's injuries, I don't know how that comes back, especially if he tells you it's not getting better due to rest. So for everyone worried about how fast Bryce Harper is running, I'm much more worried about Bryce Harper's ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark in games where it matters the most. And he did not display that yesterday. And I worry, especially as a guy who guaranteed that Bryce Harper is going to go yard in this series. That would have looked really great if he had a walk-off, didn't it? Would have been a good call by me. Still 2 more games, though. I worry about the power, and I worry about the health, and I worry about what he's going to look like in the postseason as he plays another 18 baseball games the rest of the way, or however many he's in. That seems to be a much bigger issue for the Philadelphia Phillies than worrying about hustle for a guy that has never had questions about hustle. Coming up next, we're going to get into a conversation about the Game 2 matchup between the Phillies and the Rays because, hey, you can win a series tonight and bounce back from that split with the Marlins. How did they do it? We'll discuss as we wrap up today's episode. Yes, this is a time to talk about FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. Come on. America's #1 sportsbook. I know you've heard of them. Well, we have something a little bit different for you as far as an offer from FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you're going to be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. It's a mouthful. Let me say that again. You'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. NFL season's rolling. Why would you not want to get in on this? You're already using FanDuel or you need a reason to start. That's the perfect one. So go ahead and check it out with America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. Okay, well, before we wrap up today's episode, I want to remind you, thank you one more time for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Please make your next listen Locked On MLB. The Locked On MLB podcast hosted by Sully, Paul Francis Sullivan. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. They talk about everything around baseball, not just the Phillies, not just a specific team, everything going on. So you would have heard about how the Braves lost to the Reds and got shut out last night, how the Dodgers lost, how the Phillies once again are tied for the best record in baseball, all of this great stuff. So go ahead and check out Sully on the Locked On MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's look into Phil's Rays Game 2 with Ranger Suarez on the mound, and he's going to be facing off against Taj Bradley. Now, Taj Bradley has a 4.4 ERA in 116 2/3 innings pitched. Another righty. It's been a stream of righties. He's given up 20 homers in those 116 2/3 innings, so you can hit the long ball off of him. Here's where I worry. I always worry when guys have great strikeout numbers. He struck out 131 in 116 2/3 innings pitched. He's only walked 39. So, okay, and well, not that 39 is a low number. I shouldn't say he's only walked 39, but that's a guy who's out of the zone with good stuff. And that's a guy that kills the Philadelphia Phillies over the course of the season. Your approach is going to have to be rock solid at the dish tonight. And coming off of a game where you only had 5 hits, it kind of screams slow night for the offense again. Now, who needs to step up to stop that? Well, first of all, it's Ranger Suarez, who needs to make sure that the Rays don't get into a situation where they make this harder on the Phillies and make them start to have to press. But Ranger Suarez hasn't really fully stretched out since returning from the injured list a couple weeks ago. I'd like to see him go 6 or more innings tonight, but that 2.9 ERA and the 107 whip shows you what you need to know. Ranger Suarez has been dominant this season, even if it's in shorter spurts right now. You want to make sure he's ready for the postseason, but he's been as good as anybody in this Phillies rotation, not named Zach Wheeler. It starts with Ranger going out there and dominating the Rays hitters like they're capable of. Their offense has been part of their issue with this team. And they have a couple of guys that we talked about, Yandy Diaz and Christopher Morel and guys like that, Jose Siri, that we talked about in yesterday's episode previewing the series as a whole. But you can take advantage of this lineup, and you need to do what Christopher Sanchez did. Give me 6. You don't have to give me shutout innings, but 6 and 2 or less earned runs and let the offense go to work. I do expect, right? I expect the offense to bounce back a little bit. They're going to have more than 5 hits tonight, right? They have to. They were getting like almost no hit through 6 innings, and they made a little bit of noise there in the 9th to get things going. The 8th and 9th innings were opportunities for them. So they showed flashes, I guess, but I don't even think it was their approach. They just weren't swinging the bat all that well, and they don't have their best players available. Tonight, you're going to have to approach your way into this baseball game if you're the Philadelphia Phillies offense. That starts with the leadoff hitter. Everything runs through him right now. With JT out and with Edmundo Sosa out and with Alec Boehm out and with Austin Hayes out, you're in a situation where the options are few and far between for balancing out this lineup. Kyle Schwarber needs to produce from the leadoff spot, whether that's a walk, which he's been great at forcing those this year, or if it's a bomb, like we saw him hit last night. That's a guy to keep an eye on. I still believe in Bryce Harper, like I do, and he's so mad. I know he's so mad about the way that he didn't run that ball out, the fact that it didn't get out of the yard. That's embarrassing. And it's not embarrassing for the team. No, they won. That's embarrassing for Bryce Harper, the individual. Not that I think it's that big of a deal, because I told you my thoughts on that, but he probably will. He's probably losing sleep last night over it, even though they won the game, saying, man, why in the world would I do that? I made our team have to work harder for this win. I just made this more difficult than it needed to be in a September baseball game. I thought I got that one and I didn't. You know what? I'm teed off, and I'm going to go ahead and tee off on Taj Bradley tonight in the pitching matchup and the face-off between him and one of Philly's best hitters. So I expect Bryce Harper to have a nice night. We'll see what happens through the rest of the. Everything else is kind of like a toss-up, right? Castellanos, will he have a big day? Possibly. I don't know. I look at Schwarber Harper tonight, maybe even a little bit of Trey Turner mixed in. I'd like to see what Brandon Marsh would be able to produce, but we'll see who plays where. Maybe they go ahead and give Kody Clemens some play and move guys around, and who knows what they end up deciding to do with the lineup, because there's so many moving pieces with some of your guys not available. Sounds like JT Realmuto, by the way, won't be back until like the Mets series later this week. So it's tough for the Phillies right now to put the best possible lineup together. It's the top of the order that's going to have to carry it for them. But you are going for the series win, which is great because that builds momentum going into your matchup with the New York Mets, who the Mets are continuing to just keep pace with the Philadelphia Phillies. Not like keep pace like they're even with them, but they're only 7 games back of the Phillies. They win when the Phils win. They haven't really made up ground, but they haven't really lost ground, and those series loomed large against the Mets. So like I said, you win these series, or you win this series heading in these games from the Tampa Bay Rays, you feel better about the matchup with the Mets because the team has momentum. I don't see this Phillies team as one with momentum right now. Like in this short recent memory, they lost to the Marlins. They got shut down by the Rays. They won on a walk-off after nearly blowing a save. I'm not the one to like complain about wins because I know they're hard to come by and you need a bunch of them. So all wins are good wins. But what I will say is that wasn't the most inspiring performance last night by the Philadelphia Phillies. And I hope that tonight is different. A 6:40 p.m. first pitch from Citizens Bank Park. Same time, same place. Let's run it back. What do you say, boys? Let's not let it come down to a walk-off. Let's not let it come down to a 2-1 final. Let's not only have 5 hits in the ballgame. Let's actually string something together because the Phillies are capable offense still, even with some of the guys that they're missing. And they really, again, they need to build that momentum before the Mets series. So this is a big spot for them. Just a quick look at the standings overall, by the way, because I know I told you they're tied for the best record in baseball, and they have that tiebreaker over the Dodgers at 86 and 58. The Brewers are 3.5 games back of the Phillies. You're building a nice little buffer over them that could potentially expand because the Brewers are playing the Giants, which no, it won't happen there. But they've got the Diamondbacks for 3 leading into their series with you when you'll be taking on the New York Mets. So you're in a situation where you could pick up some games on the Brewers before you even play them and then put them out of the race for the 2 seed altogether if you take advantage of that series. So a lot of momentum on the line. The Brewers in 2 series. So it's finishing up the Rays series, Mets, and then Brewers up in Milwaukee. Right now, though, you attack the game in front of you with the players you have available. And tonight for the Philadelphia Phillies, that's Ranger Suarez on the mound and a piecemeal bottom of the lineup. And guys, they're just going to have to figure out how to put together at-bats and approaches against the pitcher that strikes out a lot of guys. Sounds like a fun night, doesn't it? Of course, this is probably going to be the night that Bryce Harper goes yard and the Phillies score 7 runs. But, hey, I wouldn't be complaining about that. Anytime I get a chance to wear this victory shirt again, I am a happy, happy man. And Kody Clemens did that for the Philadelphia Phillies last night. So shout out Kody. Shout out the Christopher Sanchez start that you got in the bullpen. I mean, this is still, you can tell, winning playoff type atmosphere games. I'm not talking about the fans, but the way the game plays. That was a playoff type of style. And the Phillies, they find ways, man. They just win ball games. And that's a great, great thing. That's why they have the most wins in all of baseball. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit about, of course, Game 2 and see if the Phillies are going to be going for the sweep in the series over the Rays or if they need Game 3 to find a way to victory. The pitching setup for the series against the Brewers and why the Philadelphia Phillies are doing this the right way, I think, and what that means about the Mets series. So take a little bit of a peek forward there. But also, we're going to get into a conversation about who are the teams to watch out for, because I think there are a lot less than the records in baseball would indicate. We've got a funky thing going on with records and the number 100. So you're going to have to tune in tomorrow for that one. How about that? An episode-to-episode tease. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much again for checking us out. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. And I will talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.